Before slavery, before colonization, before the world reduced Africa to chains and suffering, there was greatness. Civilizations that rivaled Rome, empires that commanded vast trade routes, innovations that changed the course of history. This is the Africa they never told you about. And today, we're bringing that truth to light.
Imagine history as a giant puzzle, but someone removed all the pieces that made Africa shine. For centuries, we've been taught that Africa was primitive before European contact. But that's not just wrong, it's one of the biggest historical lies ever told. Africa wasn't waiting to be discovered. It was the cradle of civilization. Let's start where all human life began, the Great Rift Valley in East Africa. Modern science confirms every human being alive today traces their roots to Africa. We're not just talking bones and DNA, we're talking ideas, agriculture, culture, and civilization. Thousands of years ago, African civilizations were already building in stone, studying the stars and mastering the natural world. Take ancient Nubia, older than Egypt, rich in gold, and home to kings and queens who would one day rule Egypt itself. Their pyramids, still standing. And they built more pyramids than the Egyptians. Or consider the Dogon people of Mali, who charted the stars with shocking precision, mapping celestial bodies invisible to the naked eye before telescopes even existed. How? Oral tradition says their knowledge came from ancestors and the stars themselves. And what about ironworking? Long before it spread through Europe, Africans in places like Nigeria's Nok culture were smelting iron and making tools as far back as 1000 BC. That's innovation, before the Industrial Revolution was even a thought. Now picture this, an empire so rich its king broke economies just by visiting. Sounds like fantasy. That was Mansa Musa, Emperor of Mali, the richest man in recorded history. In 1324, he took a pilgrimage to Mecca with a caravan so large it stretched for miles. He gave out so much gold in Egypt he caused hyperinflation. Mali wasn't just rich, it was educated. The city of Timbuktu was the Oxford of its day, home to scholars, libraries, and schools that attracted thinkers from across the Islamic world. And Mali wasn't alone. Before it, there was Ghana, the land of gold. After Mali came Songhai, a military and academic powerhouse. Further east, the Kingdom of Aksum in modern-day Ethiopia was a global trading empire by the 4th century. They minted their own coins, traded with Rome, Persia, India, and even China. In southern Africa, the stone marvels of Great Zimbabwe rose from the ground, mysterious towers and walls still standing today, built without mortar, defying European narratives of barbarism. And across the Sahara, trans-African trade routes flourished, linking Africa to Arabia, Europe, and Asia. Africa didn't just trade goods, it traded culture. Music, language, art, religion, all travelled with African merchants, scholars, and sailors. Did you know African drumming rhythms influenced musical traditions from Brazil to India? Or that Swahili, a language rooted in Bantu but blended with Arabic, was the result of centuries of trade along the East African coast? African religions, like Yoruba spirituality, survived colonization and now thrive in the Americas under names like Santeria and Vodou. And let's talk architecture. From Sudano-Sahelian mosques in Mali to the Lalibela rock-hewn churches in Ethiopia, African architecture pushed the limits of design and faith. And yet, much of this history was buried, on purpose. Colonizers needed a justification for slavery, conquest, and exploitation. So they rewrote Africa's story, removing her glory and reducing her people to footnotes. They ignored the fact that African sailors may have reached the Americas before Columbus, that African science, like medicine in ancient Egypt, was centuries ahead of its time, that maps from the Middle Ages showed West African cities long before many European ones even existed. This isn't about rewriting history, it's about uncovering it. Africa shaped the world long before it was enslaved by it. It gave us the blueprint of civilization, the rhythm of music,